I'm going to go out on a limb and say if they shaved all of Aaron Woods' hair off, he'd have the head the size of a tennis ball. Apparently Shane Flanagan was the first to know Lance Armstrong was a drug cheat, but nobody believed him. Classic boy who cried wolf scenario. Do you know who didn't get enough raps? Graham Appo. Nah, maybe probably did actually. I don't know.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Voluntary Tackle, the only NRL podcast to formally raise money for the chin of Corey Oates. I'm your host, Aimon Brown. A fairly superfluous fact, given I'm not famous. Today we'll be talking all things finals, including who will win, who will lose, and what will the Cowboys and Broncos do after they lose. We'll also touch on the sacking of Des Hasler and why his contract was about as meaningful as a plea of remorse from Ted Bundy. Plus Matt Scott's possible return on a single knee cartilage and much, much more. But first, let me introduce my two guests today, Doc and Xander. How are we, fellas?
Hello, Aimon.
Aimon, I'm just absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here, guys. And I guess talking about the last week of footy, were there any surprises for you coming out of the last two games?
Corey Oates still being alive?
I know, it was an interesting one. That impact sounded a bit like 9/11 impact.
Yeah,
that happened.
It was not good. And also, I was very surprised Milford didn't actually get charged by the match review committee. Even though he did take out his own player. I mean, he still did.
Was Milford really culpable there, though? Because it was all about Oates, wasn't it? Because he ran into the back of Milford's shoulder. It'd be very hard done by Milford to have got a ban there.
I'd actually thought Oates just didn't want to play finals football. Like, it looked almost intentional on himself. It was
an act of kamikaze. I think my surprises this week was that Shane Flanagan didn't accuse anyone of cheating. And I know the Sharks were knocked out, but I still thought, frankly, he'd probably still do that.
Thought he'd have something to say on the Parramatta game, maybe?
Yeah, I thought he would just weigh in. Okay, enough banter. We're going to dive into our first topic of the day. And today we're asking, should the refs have stopped the game when Corey Oates had his face removed? When the Broncos winger Corey Oates charged jaw first into the shoulder of Anthony Milford at the speed of light, the loud crunch sound that ensued made most of Australia feel sick, and a very weird fringe portion horny. As Oates lay on the ground convulsing, the ball came loose and a quick-thinking panther with no soul scooped up the ball for a likely try. However, the refs intervened and called a halt to play to check on the welfare of Oates, who, to be fair to the refs, did look to be decapitated. Boys, were the refs right to call a stop to play when Corey's lower mandible imploded?
No. Just going to come out and say it straight out.
You think it should have been play on?
It's play on unless somebody's missing a leg, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well, it's a very hardline attitude that Xander has, Doc. Do you feel the same way?
The game's just gone soft, hasn't it?
It has gone a bit soft. I mean, you go back even 5 years, and that would have been play on for sure.
I just miss the days, having a biff, having a beer after the game with your mates, and if you die in the field, you die in the field. That's rugby league for you.
It's very much like war. No man. Well, they say no man left behind, but in rugby league, we would leave them behind, and we'd celebrate that in a way. So it's a shame that it's gone that way.
It's come a long way since the 1970s when you used to hear stories of players losing testicles and playing on. Not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, but just saying the bar has gone down a little bit on it.
Do you mean losing testicles during play, like they just pop out? Or?
Quite literally, there have been stories about players in both league and union.
Well, that is hardcore.
There was a famous All Black who literally, Colin Meads, I think his name was, who had a testicle rucked out in the 1970s and finished the match.
He had a testicle rucked out by someone's boot?
Yes, that's right.
That's illegal, surely.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the player
That's 10 in the bin.
That's at least put at least a 10 minutes in. If you remove a testicle on purpose, 10 minutes in the bin, mandatory.
I believe that at the time the referee did rule that the player was going for the ball. Just got the wrong one.
Isn't this a slippery slope, though, guys? If the NRL goes down this track of stopping the game every time a player looks injured, I mean, a game this year with Josh Dugan would never have ended.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think they need to be they need to be requiring at least 2 medical teams before they stop the game.
How do you feel about that, Doc?
Yeah, look, you just got to play footy,
It's got to be play on.
You just got to play footy.
Maybe the NRL do away with the whole 2 ref system and maybe just have 1 ref and 1 cardiologist out there in the middle. I mean, after all, I'd imagine a cardio would probably make better calls.
Look, I'm open to anything, Eamon. Eamon?
You can call me Eamon.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's what they call me in New Zealand.
Yeah. 2 refs, huh? I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I have thought maybe bringing on Dr. Carl as a video ref occasionally would be an interesting. The commentary would get interesting. I'd love to hear his try no try decisions.
You know, we worried at the moment that the video ref is too technical. I think Dr. Carl would be he would be very, very technical.
Could turn the referees box into a Triple J show. It would be fantastic.
Possibly. He'd probably even bring in the Coriolis effect when it came to forward passes.
While we're on changing the rules a bit, can we get Freddie Fittler off and get Don Burke on and do a bit of Bert's backyard for the? You know how he's been doing all the we've got a windy field, we've got like this much soil, we've got mate just get Don. He's not doing anything.
You're right. He's sort of gone especially green thumb.
Yeah,
Freddie, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's really getting. He talked about the dew on the grass a lot over the last couple of months. I found
he should just stick to footy and just get Don. Don needs a gig, I'm sure.
Well, I was never a fan of Don. But I mean, he does know his plants and his grasses and his trees. But
his home's amongst the gum trees.
That's right. Knowledgeable man, just a terrible human being, in my opinion. Hello, Don, if you're listening.
Cheers, Don.
The other side of this story, gents, is whether Corey Oates should be allowed to play this week. Now, he obviously had a pretty heavy concussion, and there's been a lot of calls for him medically not to play. I'd say even if Oates does manage to regain consciousness from his coma, should he be allowed to play?
Look, he can't be any less effective than half the other Broncos when it comes to tackling, conscious or unconscious at this point.
Yeah, you're right.
So I say let him play.
Let him play.
Stretch him out there and just put him on the side.
So what you're saying is you wouldn't notice?
No.
Even conscious or not, you'd fit right in.
Yeah, he's still better than Moga, so...
I think Moga's defended all right this year. This is his breakout. For Moga, this is his breakout year.
All I got to say is good luck, Newcastle.
Personally, I think rugby league, guys, is a bit of a tough man's game. And I think even if Corey Oates doesn't come to, as you said, Xander, I think he should be made to play regardless, lest he be labelled a softcock. Maybe the NRL could make a concession and Oates would be allowed to have a minder go out there with him. And even if he's unconscious, maybe prop him up, a bit like Weekend at Bernie's maybe.
Alfie Lang has been doing that for the past 5 years as a Brisbane trainer, so...
You're right. It's been a 14-man game on the field for the Broncos for a while, hasn't he? He's been in the back line. Actually, how good was it in Origin when they kicked that ball across and Alfie took it?
Yeah, absolutely loved it. Love you, Alf. Really good restaurant in Caloundra if you're ever up there.
Oh, thanks for the advice, mate. I won't be up there. But look, to close on this whole Corey Oates issue, I just want to reaffirm that the NRL is a collision sport. And it just so happens in this case, Corey Oates should have had an airbag for that collision. More to come after this.
Both of you sit there and wait for me to put my foot in it.
Well, don't make it easy.
And then you jump all over the top of me like funnel webs. Brad Fittler.
Well, that's enough about jaw injuries, guys, and I think we need to talk more about throat complaints, because now we're asking, did the Parramatta Eels choke? Outside of some individual brilliance from Semi Radradra and Will Smith, the Eels were comprehensively outplayed by a grindy Cowboys side, who have now claimed the scalps of 2 competition heavyweights. With all due credit and respect to the Cowboys, it must be said that the Eels did make more errors than Jackson Hastings does, peeling oranges for the Eagles.
Come on, mate.
Jacko doesn't cut them right. And he tends to leave a lot of the skin on. It's a bit of a dog's breakfast. Anyway, that's beside the point. Does beg the question, did the Eels choke harder than the token ethnic woman in a snuff pick?
God. Yeah, mate, they bottled it, 100%. Look, I mean, I think the only player that turned up for the Eels was Semi Radradra. Scored, 2 length of the field tries.
He should get extra points, Semi, for running 100. He only run 100-metre tries now, doesn't he? Yeah. That's the only ones he'll score.
I've never seen him run more than 10 metres or 100 metres.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should. I mean, I think the math would get a little bit tricky pretty quickly.
Yeah, especially, Look, we don't want to confuse the referees and the fans of this great game anymore, so we may as well just keep it simple.
Could you imagine, though, someone was that good and just for the extra points, they end up doubling back and doing sort of like a concentric circle before they scored? I mean, if they were that good.
Or if you could run it back to the opposition trial and you get, 2 tries worth.
Yeah, in fact, I'd say you're bordering Xander there on a different game. I feel like that's going in another direction.
Fafita would be good at that because he just runs sideways and backwards anyway.
He does. He does. He would have to play maybe tunnel ball or something else. He does drop the ball on the ground a lot.
This does hit very close to home, though. It's very touchy. As a Parramatta Eels fan.
You are, aren't you, Doc? And yes. I hear you're still reeling from it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had the same impression as me, but when I watched that game, when it looked as though Cowboys were well and truly getting on top, most of the Parramatta Eels, I think at one point, just turned towards Semi and said, please score another length for the field, mate. Please. Like that was like they'd run out of options.
Yeah.
And so they all just looked at Semi hoping he'd pull off a miracle.
We've seen some dark times at Parramatta, you know.
There's no need for racism,
last
mate.
year, I think, was probably one of those dark times, frankly.
Look, you know, sometimes you cheat the cap and get away with it, and sometimes you don't. You win some, you lose some. We lost some.
Wouldn't know anything about cheating the cap, us Roosters fans.
Uncle Nick's.
Yeah, but it's certainly never been proven, Doc.
Yeah. But like, in all honesty, the Eels, I mean, we played finals footy for the first time since I was in grade 9 in high school. So
That's got to be a good feeling.
yeah, it's fantastic. I think, you know, we've got a pretty good squad for next year. Obviously, Semi missing out on him it'll be tough.
He's a big loss.
Yes, he does run
300-metre tries, as we said.
2 kilometres every game. So
Yeah. And he always injures at least one person that he uses as a speed hump during those tries.
you just cannot stop him.
He's
just
another.
cannot stop him.
He's another
He's
species.
very special. He's the proudest Australian rugby league player out there.
Oh, absolutely. He's a bit, yeah. He's the most true blue Aussie to ever
When are
pull
we
on
going
the
to stop?
jersey.
When are we going to stop pilfering players from the Pacific for our national team?
Never.
I don't know.
I think when Queensland stops doing it, we
Come on. Look,
No words. Like, I don't know if you guys thought the same. Did you think Corey Norman and Michael Jennings were abducted during that game? Because after 20 minutes, I could not find them.
I think they were at Crown Casino.
They might have been playing the slots. That's what I was thinking.
I think they took their... You know how all the boys usually go on gambling trips after they get knocked out? I think they just assumed that they weren't going to play round 2 of the finals. So
Yep.
they got some body doubles in or something because they were nowhere to be found.
They were
I
ordinary.
have to differ with you guys. I did actually spot Michael Jennings out there. He just got his boots stuck in that long beard he's been growing, and
I'm inclined to agree with you there. I guess just on this game as well, guys. Now, Mitchell Moses has been great for the Eels.
I would say fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, no, well, he has. He's definitely been playing better than he did earlier in the year. But it has to be said, he had a bit of a shocker, I thought, in that game. And I just thought, is there a chance that he got confused and thought he was playing for the West Tigers again? Is that a potential?
In years gone past, it could be hard to tell the difference between the Eels and the West Tigers, really. Both absolutely crap-ass teams, but...
yeah, well, it did strike me as a bit odd when he randomly passed the ball to a Tigers fan sitting in the crowd.
I think he saw Jack Littlejohn, just wanted to make him feel included.
Oh, there'll be a lot more Mitchell Moses bashing right after this short commercial break.
How many more times do we need to see him knock on?
Don't start me, Rabbits.
Try.
Come on.
Turn.
The referee's just making sure.
And welcome back to the Voluntary Tackle. Now, the Voluntary Tackle, being a very serious and credible NRL program that we know it to be, has asked its Twitter followers this week who would make a better Colonel Klink from Hogan's Heroes. Now, we've shortlisted it down to Blake Ferguson, Jeff Robson, or Kurt Baptiste. Remarkably, we did have one response, as is the scale of our social media audience at the moment. And this response comes from a user called Turtle Wilson. G'day, Turtle.
Thanks, Turtle.
Thanks, Turtle. His suggestion is the commandant of Stalag NRL himself, Todd Greenberg, should be Colonel Klink. Just add a monocle, a riding crop, and a crouched gait. # dismissed. Well, we certainly appreciate your response, Turtle, and even if it did annoyingly go outside the parameters of the original question, we still welcome those kind of things. Throw it over to you really quickly, guys. In terms of who would make a better Colonel Klink, let's put Todd Greenberg in the mix. What are your opinions?
He's certainly got the look, doesn't he, Todd Greenberg? The chrome dome definitely helps that look.
Well, you definitely have to be a baldy.
Puts Sterling in the frame too, doesn't it, when you think of it?
He's more of a Yoda, isn't he?
He definitely has that about him. Well, I did think Fergo had a chance because his sort of clownish playing style, I often feel when I watch him, he does look like he's in a bit of a sitcom. So I feel like Fergo could be...
He's quite bald too.
He's very bald. Like, he's beyond bald. I think he's lost every follicle and now he's starting to lose skin cells.
What kind of drugs is he on?
Yeah, well, not performance enhancing.
Oh, yeah, we know that for sure.
If we're talking about potentials for Colonel Klink, maybe he is a good candidate because all that hair loss, all that loss of performance, maybe he was experimenting with the gas chambers.
I personally would have went Jeff Robson because I can definitely picture him as a Nazi. He's sort of got that cold, austere look in the eyes that suggests he could well drown a baby without flinching. Also feel Mitch Pearce might have made a good Bob Crane. Not so much for his comedic exploits in front of the camera, but more for his sexual oddities in his private life.
I don't mind if they do steal the ball in a two-man tackle.
Neither do I, Rabbit.
I'm trying to simplify it. Do you mind?
I'm with you. Why are you arguing with me?
And it's that time of the week again to reward the winners of our Secret Sound competition. For those who missed it, here's that sound again. Congratulations to those who correctly guessed the sound of Michael Maguire forcibly training the South Sydney Rabbitohs through a series of broken bones.
Moving the show along now, we're asking, can the Roosters stop Jason Taumalolo? The form of Jason Taumalolo has been so good over the last month that his performance is reminiscent of that German athlete who carved up the female pole vault, only to be later outed as a man wearing thick mascara. Roosters enforcer Jared Waerea-Hargreaves yesterday called out Taumalolo, declaring he will personally put an end to his recent domination. However, given the form difference between the two forwards, it might be like watching a paraplegic ant trying to shoulder charge a 12-pound bowling ball. Boys, what can the Roosters do to stop the other JT from the Cowboys?
Baseball bats.
So you think just weaponise?
Yeah, look, it's very hard to see him getting stopped at this point, and Hargreaves is more likely to just try and co-triangle him and come off second best at this point.
Yeah, I don't think he's got the artillery, Jared. I mean, he's sort of 3 or 4 years past his best, but I think actually people have been knocking him for saying he's going to put JT on his ass, but I think it actually shows a bit of confidence. I think he needed to do it to fire himself up.
Yeah, it shows a bit of confidence now. Come Saturday,
Yeah.
he gets put on his ass. It's just gotta-
Yeah, it'll show a lot of stupidity then.
Look, yeah, they've just got to take a little bit of a page out of the North Korean playbook.
Oh, okay, I like this.
Hydrogen bombs, nuclear missiles.
But ones that work preferably.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if it's the Roosters particularly, I think the Roosters maybe should just try to poach him mid-game because we're good at
You're
that.
really good at that.
Yeah.
Really good.
We could maybe lure him to the sideline with an even more lucrative contract.
Chuck in a couple Lexus third-party deals.
Oh, 100%. We could have Nick Politis could actually maybe just chuck wads of hundreds at him as he runs and maybe even arc the wads so that they go towards the sideline.
Yeah, it's good to see as loyal Roosters fans, you're thinking outside the box.
We have to, mate. Especially financially. I also think maybe the Chooks should invest guys in a bunch of booby traps. Now, I know you've already called on the North Korean strategy, Doc, but maybe a few bear clamps, a few tripwires. If they can have Taumalolo bundled up in a cargo net, I'm sure that will really hamper his go forward. Do you think that might be an opportunity?
Yeah, somehow I don't think a bear trap would stop Taumalolo, to be completely honest.
Yeah, maybe 5.
It took 2 minutes, Rabbits. 2 minutes to come up with that decision.
That's ridiculous. This is Purtell with the ball.
Now, on the voluntary tackle, we're asking, what will the Dally M's look like if nobody turns up?
About the same as always.
Australian captain Cameron Smith has declared that he and his players are prepared to boycott the annual Dally M ceremony if a collective bargaining agreement cannot be reached with the NRL. With CEO Todd Greenberg suggesting the night will go ahead regardless of players turning up, it leaves many wondering if the night will end up looking like most South Sydney home games this year. Just a bunch of empty seats and an extremely depressed and dishevelled Russell Crowe. Lads, do you think it's worth going ahead with the Dally M night if nobody goes?
Yeah, I think it's not too much of an issue, to be honest. I mean, you can just fudge the numbers like they do with the Souths game. Just say that a lot of people turned up and have Todd Greenberg and co turn up and accept the awards on behalf of the players.
Yeah,
so
great point.
you'd still award them.
Yeah, I mean, the acceptance speech would probably be more interesting because you'd have to make it up on the spot.
Yeah.
You know,
And he can string 2 words together sometimes.
this is true.
Yeah, you could take a play out of Fox Sports book when they got caught this year reusing old crowd footage from people who actually weren't at games.
Wow, that's very Donald Trump of them.
Yeah, so I mean, look, how many Dally M's has there been? There's been
Too
a
many.
couple. They're all the same.
I think they should take the piss, though. Maybe they should, really go back into the archive, see if they can get Dally M's from the 1970s.
Okay, well, I think, the flares and the weird handlebar moustaches might be a bit of a giveaway, Xander.
Everyone would just be shirtless.
Yeah. Like when Huggy Bear comes onto the stage to accept an award, you might have blown up your plan.
In all seriousness, though, it could actually be a fantastic look for our game. It'll be the first time there'll ever be no off-field indiscretions.
That's true, because you'd very much doubt that one of the empty seats was going to do a line of coke and then try to strangle someone.
Yeah. Look,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, here they
Always
don't-
looking at the positives, aren't you, Doc?
Look, I just love this game, and I'm just trying to do all we can to make it survive in this PC world we live in,
Well, I'm just theorising, fellas, that if no one turns up, what if there's only one guy turns up? What if Josh McCrone is the only guy to turn up? Does that mean he sweeps the awards by default?
Does a Bradbury, you mean? Where
Exactly.
We're just the only person who turns up gets to take the award.
I think that's the way it should
Well,
work.
he did that at the Dragons this year with the halfback position, didn't he?
A little bit, yeah. I think he was the only guy to turn up for training.
I heard they because you know how they play at different home grounds. I heard they told everyone that trials were at Wollongong, but It was actually at Jubilee. He might have actually just taken all the flyers down. I'm not too sure, but
Maybe they told Josh the wrong venue in the hope that he wouldn't turn up.
He played quite a lot of first grade football this year.
He really did.
Everyone listening out there, you can achieve your dreams. Josh McCrone was a first grade halfback in the year 2017 AD.
Who knew? No doubt if Josh were to get the award or any award, he'd probably end up rushing his speech anyway and coming up with the worst content possible.
And then kicking the medal really badly.
Yeah, he'd panic under lights, let's face it. If nobody turns up, should the NRL guys consider hiring impersonators for the night? You could maybe, hire a fake Cameron Smith. And for the sake of authenticity, teach the actor to show very little concern for the welfare of Alex McKinnon.
Wow.
More to come after the break.
What a day for him. He's come here with nothing in his pocket and he's gone home with twice as much.
That'd be nothing, wouldn't it?
Next on the show, we're asking whether or not Des Hasler should have been sacked as coach of the Bulldogs. Only months after signing a contract renewal, the Bulldogs announced the sacking of its coach, Des Hasler, claiming the contract to be as meaningless as any book written by Dan Brown. As Hasler revealed his intentions to contest the decision in court, we are asking whether or not Des should have allowed his contract to be written on an Etch-a-Sketch. Boys, is Des at fault here for not signing an actual contract? And if he wasn't, what did he sign?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one, isn't it? Mind you, like rugby league is pretty littered with stories of contracts that don't appear to mean much. Sonny Bill Williams of the Bulldogs comes to mind. Again, Bulldogs, a bit of a common theme there.
There is a bit of a common theme.
But maybe he, there's been a bit of bad blood, I know, between the coaching staff and the executive. Maybe it was just a bit of a fuck you from them. They did it as a bit of they tried to punk him by saying, hey, Des, here's 2 extra years, and then yanking
Sucked in
him.
Desi.
Do we think that Des was a successful coach at the Bulldogs?
I mean, I know a lot of the Bulldogs faithful think that because he was an outsider, he wasn't a true Bulldog man. So
I think if you redefine the term success to include not winning a premiership, he's not done.
He's
too
done
badly.
exceptionally well then. In that case, you're right.
That is
definitely
successfully
one of
made second one year. That's
Well, the funny thing about him though is, apart from this year, he's made finals every other year, hasn't he?
they
Since
have.
he's
yeah,
been there.
Yeah.
yeah, it took him to a GF as well.
Took him
didn't
to
he?
a GF. I mean, they should never have made it, but yeah, he took them there.
And they were competitive up until the last 10 minutes of that, and then they lost by 40. But they were in it.
No, look, boys, I think it's actually a great thing for the league. I think it's great for Des because now we have the Sydney team that we can move to Perth.
Oh well, that's a whole new conversation,
So
Doc.
I think they more suit Canterbury and New Zealand. Just an easier switch.
So you want to see the Perth Bulldogs?
Absolutely. Get them out of the western suburbs.
That is coming from a true para fan. You realise you've already started a riot among the 7 listeners.
That support.
If 3 of them were Bulldogs fans, that's all they'd need for a riot.
No,
Look,
I'm all for moving them to Christchurch.
Look me up, guys. Doc Chen. We'll fight about it.
what should Des do next? Obviously, his reputation as a coach in the NRL is still pretty good.
Yeah.
What should his next job be? Coaching the Blues or?
I think the Yamina Bunnies reserve grade need a coach.
Yep. Okay. You heard there was a vacancy.
Yeah. I've heard he's got some family ties, so he'd have more success there than
What would he
coaching
be-
for New South Wales. So
What would he be getting paid at the?
from my country rugby league experience, probably a Mrs. Max pie and a can of Coke.
Couple of KFC vouchers.
Yeah, I see him away from rugby league somehow. I think like Des
Hair modelling.
Yeah, hair modelling. Maybe like a Surfside Shack masseuse.
It's a very unusually specific image of Des Hasler. He sounds like you've thought about that.
Yeah, there's a sort of air of like Point Break extra to him. You know what I mean? Like you can see him doing something in the background.
Like one of the louts getting beaten up by Bodie.
Yeah, like having his caddy shack robbed whilst preparing for the latest.
I did hear on the street too. He does have an option to start serving hot dogs out the front of Brookie like the other old fellow who's been doing it for 30 years. So
he has options.
Yeah, he does have options. He'll be fine.
He'll fall back on something.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a lesson I've always said to people. It's a lesson to always read what you sign. Just remember the time the Warriors accidentally signed Kieran Foran. I don't know if you remember that.
Do you remember when Parramatta actually signed him too?
Yeah, I do remember
Whoops.
that. Yep. Didn't work out well. More to come.
25 on Monday, Samuel. You've grown since you were born. You were born as 4 kilos.
How's it looking, Bernie?
21 September 1990. You've put on 121 kilos since then.
As some of you may know, our team of experts here at the Voluntary Tackle are often calling games on Sky Channel's 333. As a treat, here are some of the highlights from the Eels-Cowboys game. The Cowboys on the attack now. Granville runs out a dummy half, passes right from Morgan, who uses brilliant footwork to get on the outside of Moses, delivers a cutout ball to Feld, who goes in the corner. What a brilliant try for the Cowboys.
Well, Morgan at his best there, showing what he can do with his feet and the ball.
Morgan now, nowhere to go. Puts a short kick in, he regathers, he dummies, he steps, he fends, he scores!
Well, Morgan showing off all his tricks there. It surely can't get any better for Michael Morgan in this game, Eamon.
Morgan fields the kick on his own 20-metre line. Comes up to the defence. He levitates. Morgan literally flying through the air now, far above the Eels' defence. They won't get him. Well, they can't get him, Xander.
Well, Morgan's bag of tricks looks to have been extended to the black afts here, Eamon. Appears to no longer be prisoner to Earth's gravity.
Let's get some insight from down there at ground level with Doc. What's the atmosphere like on the sideline there, mate?
Well, quite extraordinary scenes here, boys, as Michael Morgan took a break from play only a few moments ago to heal some lepers in the front row. A real show of magical force and goodwill there from Morgan.
Wow, Morgan is now healing lepers. Think of what he could do for the crowds at the foot of the mountains.
Well, that's almost wrapping it up here at the Voluntary Tackle. Boys, any final thoughts? How do we see these games going on the weekend?
Look, I just think that the Melbourne Storm are going to win by 30. I've just got a feeling.
You think it might be 30-0?
I think my senses, my footy senses are tingling. I'm going 30-0. Lock it in.
I wonder what that is on Sportsbet.
I don't like to be the dissenting voice, but I just can't see a scoreline like that happening on Friday night. I'm going to go with a huge upset to see the Broncos win 2-0. 1 penalty nil.
Wow, it's very A-League of you, Xander. I like that. And in the second game, Cowboys Roosters. How do we see that going?
Roosters.
That's very succinct. I like that. What about you, Doc?
I think Morgan's going to get the magic carpet out of the Townsville health and beauty store. He's going to bring it down on the plane, chuck it on
chuck it on eBay.
No, I was going to say. What was I going to say? Chuck it on checked baggage.
Well, that about wraps it up here at the Voluntary Tackle. We hope you enjoyed your time with us today. Please subscribe to the show and give us a review on iTunes. Likewise, you can join all the fun on the Twitter page and abuse us if you want. But until next time, just do what the Warriors would do and always finish 12th. Bye for now. If you think Gordon Tallis was aggressive on the field, you should see him play bingo. He'd rip your fucking legs 11 off. According to his medical team, Nathan Cleary is 74% jawline. Well, Laurie Daly is adamant his sacking as coach had nothing to do with the Dugan-Ferguson incident. It had far more to do with the fact that Dugan and Ferguson played.